weeks out to be like, I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah, about that. Depends.
Trying to hide my face.
Go Braves. Go Braves. It's sad. I betrayed the Blue Jays today, but what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode number, Scott, what number is this? 7. Oh, we're on a roll. 7 weeks in a row. We have some guests today. If you guys don't know who these are, then you haven't been following anything closely enough. This is Iain Valliere and Miss Melissa Bumstead, my sister, brother-in-law. And of course, we always have Matthew Jansen over here.
Are you ever going to call me Melissa Valliere?
Melissa Valliere.
Will it feel weird? Does it feel weird?
It does feel weird.
For you especially.
Well, it's only ever been Bumstead for me forever.
I can't even call myself Melissa Valliere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 20. How many years?
Legally changed over yet, so it's like not 100% there.
I mean, I can't now. I have to like go in person in Canada to do it, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
So.
It's also 24 years of in my brain, whereas other people who meet you, it'll just be like
new.
It is new. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But yeah, there are guests today. We're going to be going over some stuff. We're going to kind of roll into conversation, but we're going to talk about relationships, competing, random questions I thought that I was honestly kind of curious of how you would answer in terms of mentality and stuff to do with competing as well. And anything you want to throw in, Matt, we'll just go with the flow.
Cool. Sounds good.
Matt's in a quiet mood today.
I'll be good.
He's hungry.
He's hungry. We're all a little hungry. Our stomachs are firing.
Stomach gurgling through the mic. Not yours, just his.
We'll just start with a random question I have because it's always hard to get flown without that. But people always ask me and Courtney this similar question. I've seen people ask you. I want to know what you think the most important qualities you guys have or have had to develop that you didn't have in terms of like being in a relationship and doing something that's highly energy consuming, highly time consuming, emotionally consuming. Because it's not just like you're gone all day at work. It's like you come home and it's like your mind thinking about food, prep, diet, rest, competing, everything. So like how as like a couple have you managed that? What's an important quality in a relationship to like keep in touch with each other?
While prepping.
While
being like hyper focused.
While your energy and emotions are consumed with something else.
I think a big thing is just, being mindful. I think, even when you might not necessarily be thinking about doing those things, you still need to like think about the other person's feelings and thoughts. You know what I mean? Like it's like being mindful of the situation. It's like, okay, I know I might not be 100% attentive to these things, but these are still things that, I know she appreciates and that I want to do. I mean, I think it's, a bit of compromise as well, which obviously is always important in a relationship, but I think it's, the biggest thing is just remaining mindful,
And I think in like parallel to what he just said, I had to learn to ask for what I wanted and what I needed from him instead of expecting him to just do it because he loves me. You know what I mean? Because especially when people are hyper-focused on a very, let's be serious. I mean, I don't even want to say it's a selfish goal because it no longer is. It provides for our family. But when you're hyper-focused on competing, and Iain is like an extreme version of that, it's expected that things are going to fall. And I feel like at the beginning, and maybe this comes from me maturing and becoming a more secure adult, but I would be like, oh my God, he didn't do this because he doesn't love me, or he doesn't know that I want this. And that equates him not caring about me. Mm-hmm. And that no longer is how I never feel like that anymore. If there's something that I want him to do, I tell him and I literally will communicate. I want you to do this because it makes me feel like you care. Like you give a shit.
And this is where the mindfulness comes in for me though.
Yeah.
And
like
now
if you say
something like that, I'm like, okay, even if I'm in bodybuilding mode and it's like, okay, I don't want to do these things or my mind's elsewhere. Sometimes you just have to take a minute and like be mindful of the things that you still, need and appreciate and, things that make you feel loved and seen, So I think those are the things you just need to continue to be mindful of. It's like, it's the same thing with like people being like the whole like roid ragey kind of thing, It's like, oh, but I'm a dick with this and this. It's like, okay, but you are still in control. You're still in control of your emotions and the things that come out of your mouth and the things, your actions, So it's sometimes you just need to take a moment and be mindful of these things, right? I think that extends to this as well.
And take responsibility instead of blaming prep.
Exactly.
This, that. Well, I'm on prep. What do you expect? Like, no, it's your
fault. You might feel that way, but okay, just take a second, do what you think is the best, not in this situation. Like in your mind is telling you the best. Be mindful of your partner and the surroundings and make the decision based off that, right?
In terms of understanding like obviously in our life we have like priorities, and there's a hierarchy of priorities. Do you think at a certain level, in a certain stage in prep, your priority being Iain's being competing or something over you, is that normal? Or do you think it should always be your partner first, or that just depends on the couple?
I don't expect ever to be first. I expect him to be first and me to be right after. And I feel the same for myself, because when I'm first, I'm being my best for him. So I've never been that type of woman that's like, I'm the most important thing in your life. Because to be completely honest, I'm more important to myself than he is to me. He's extremely important to me. Don't get me wrong, but I'm always going to make sure that I'm the best version of myself for myself and for him.
Well, you have to.
Yeah. And like the same thing when prep happens, maybe it's not as hard for me to like feel a little shafted, because like our whole life is kind of structured like that for both of us, right?
I was gonna say too, I noticed you last year, and this is something that Jordan did too. Like you had a lot of selflessness, because it was like Iain's career was kind of just really taking off, you know. And then through your prep, like we had a conversation one time that you were like, "Well, I'm not gonna miss out on celebrating victories with him because of my prep." So that was you in a way taking a back seat, you know. And then also from like an emotional standpoint, you being there to support him through the Arnold. And like, it's hard. What I've noticed in relationships, especially when both people prep, is they both thrive in that environment, or that's when they butt heads the most.
Yep.
You know, because somebody has to take precedence within those prime moments.
Yep.
And, you know, I've been in situations where I've been in a house with people, and the person that was in the relationship that was 9 to 10 weeks out was still prioritizing themselves over the person that was peaking for that show. And it can't be that way.
Can't work. You know?
Like you have to make decisions, whether it's having your food prepped ahead of time or not taking over the kitchen the whole time. Like all those decisions have to be made ahead of time for that person on that weekend, or you know, to make it work.
Yeah, no, I think compromise is a huge thing for that, for sure. You know, and I think, you know, we obviously haven't prepped like been that close to a show together in a while.
For a long time.
You know, like you obviously did prep this year and got close, but like Matt said, I mean, you know, you still, you know, my career was on the up and up, and you made, you know, the decision for both of us and for yourself to, you know, put that on the secondary, right?
I mean, I'm also like very self-aware. So like if I know that there's going to be a moment where he needs me, or there's a moment where I want to be present and I want to have like a celebration and feel like very emotionally connected to him, because there is a moment after I think everyone competes where there's an emotional release. And sometimes if you're so like blocked and focused on, let's say, your own prep or whatever, your job, it could be anything, you don't really get to experience that emotional release with your partner. And to me, a lot of those moments have been like times when we've connected and grown a lot as a couple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like things that kind of come up after shows that like, I don't think would even come up if you didn't go through that super intense moment.
Yeah.
And I always want to be there to like understand and connect and support him through that, whether it's a good outcome or a bad outcome. So
I think also, especially from the male side, I think we suppress our emotions so much during a prep, whether it's induced or whether it's hyper focused or whatever it is. And then those things like really can come out.
Yeah.
Either prejudging or finals, they come out, you know, and that's when you show appreciation. That's when you might show frustration, but you just suppress that for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that.
It's definitely a telltale sign of how your relationship is. Like what, like you said, what might come out.
How it manifests itself.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you like know that you've been getting a lot of love and a lot of support, selfless from your partner, and you haven't really been appreciating it, that could pour out. Whereas if you feel like you haven't, then maybe you just get frustrated.
Lash back, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like that release is just the honest truth of how you've been feeling, whatever you've been holding in.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's similar concept of hitting rock bottom. It's just a large burst of emotion that allows the truth to come out and for you to take action on it.
well, and for both sides, because even if I'm not competing, but he is, I guarantee you I'm holding things in when he's getting ready for a show.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to vomit all these unnecessary things on him every day that maybe I would normally when I know he's, you know, preparing for the biggest stage of his life. Mm-hmm. And like this year after the Olympia, it wasn't like a happy time after. Like I was holding in things that I had to release, and we had to have like a I don't want to say a blowout, but there was a big conversation that needed to happen. And it had to wait until then. And then we're closer because of it. Yeah. It's not always like happy after, you know?
Yeah.
But even that is being selfless on your part, because you waited until he was probably at a better emotional state to hear whatever you need to say, you know, rather than doing it in the heat of the moment when he might have been like, well, forget this, I got to focus, you know, like, or whatever. You're just more open to hearing the truth.
On that note, do you think it's more important or equal, I guess, for if Iain's competing and you're not, more important for him to try and be aware of his emotions and still be there for you? Is it more important for you to kind of like be there for him, like in terms of the relationship?
But see, I think this is where the thing
like, is it important for you to hold things in, or is it important for him to be able to be in a position to hear things and get himself there?
I think it's situational. You know what I mean? Like certain things, I think a lot of things, especially, I don't want to be like anti-feminist or like sexist, but a lot of things, I think if women would just like relax for a second and like go into their like rational brain instead of their emotional brain, it's not worth it. Pick your battles. Other things that are bigger, I think you'll learn your partner and learn when it's time to have that conversation, when they're ready to receive it. I don't think you should ever swallow anything and never talk about it, but I do think there's time and place for things. So like if I'm having an issue with how our relationship is going and he's 2 weeks from the Olympia and it's a big issue, I'm not going to be like, we need to sit down and talk about this right now. No, I'm going to wait. And our relationship is strong enough that I know it's not going to implode over the next 2 weeks.
I mean, that's another thing. You have to have earned that respect and trust.
Oh yeah.
So that, you know, like if you don't have that respect and trust going in, you'll be 2 weeks out, you could be like, fuck it. Like he's going to be an asshole after the show. He's not going to listen after the show either way. So I might as well just throw it on him now.
Yeah. Well, I also have a husband who's like so affectionate and so supportive. So like I would never take something that's like in a vacuum and make it that he doesn't care about me anymore. Because he's been here for the last 10 years proving and earning this foundation. So I'm like, I can hold out. Honestly, I could probably hold out for a year if I needed to. Like he has shown me over the past 10 years that like I am his priority. So, I mean, at the beginning, it obviously wasn't like this, but I can't even remember.
No, but this is what comes back to me, like me saying that too, from my end, you know, being mindful of these things.
Yeah.
And like trying to remember like, okay, these are the things that like she cares about. And I still need to, you know, and even if there is something, you know, that you are reluctant to talk about because of during in a prep, you know, like I can still usually sense those things. And most of the time, if I sense it, I'll still bring it up anyways. And we'll still get through the conversation, even if it's in prep, you know, like usually there is the conversation. Like there is some things that obviously get held out when to a more appropriate time, but you know, for the most part, we are able to work through things, you know, in a pretty timely fashion, you know, because we have that mutual understanding and respect. And
well, and I can't hide shit. So I'm like, if I'm uncomfortable or upset, like
most of bad, she's mad.
It's easy to tell.
A stranger would know right away. You know what I mean? Someone that sees me once a month would know that something was off with me. So
that's when the sees part when Melissa walks in the gym. Everyone's like,
I know, it's bad. It's bad.
But no, I mean, I don't think for us, like our day-to-day life is like drastically different, you know, like from an emotional standpoint in prep during it versus not.
Well, because you're just a psycho in an off season. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but I feel like, you know, we've been doing this together long enough that like it's just our normal life at this point. You know, it isn't like prep time and off season time. It's just like life of a bodybuilder, you know? This
is also like, I think if you like bring it back to like how cool this is that this is our life. Like, are you kidding? Like, I know I'm not the one upstage, but on stage, but it sure as shit feels like it when he's up there.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the coolest life ever. So like everything that's good is going to have some sort of like sacrifice in tough times. And I feel like, especially this last year and a half, I feel like we've really been living in like the side of gratitude. And it's just, it makes the bullshit like not really even feel bad, you know?
I think it would be harder, and I don't mean any offense by this, but you clearly don't care as much as Iain.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Yeah.
If you had that same passion that he had, would it be harder? Because right now you can take a step back and it's Iain's spotlight and you're just, like you said, you're just as happy to watch him up there doing it as he is to be up there doing it.
Yeah.
And that's a balance that
Yeah.
that works. If you had that same drive as he had and you were both doing that and you both were like chasing that quote unquote spotlight, not like your attention, just
Yeah.
the goal, do you think that would be more difficult, or would that again just be you'd be sharing it when it was each other's moment?
I think it would. I think it would be shared. I don't. I feel like the way that things like our dynamic isn't because like it's hard to say, because the way our dynamic isn't because I feel like I'm like not making myself small, but like taking a step back for his dream. It literally is just like what I want and what he wants. I think if I ever found my thing, my passion that like made me, whatever, spend 12 hours a day at work or travel and like be, a bit more gone from the relationship, he would be supportive 100%. I don't think he would figure it out. You know what I mean? Like someone asked me the other day, like, do you cook all his meals? I'm like, if I'm around. If I'm not, he fucking figures it out. He doesn't. It's not like he would ever get any sort of negative feelings if I wasn't there to do it. It's
No, I mean, I'm perfectly competent to be a bodybuilder
yeah, no,
myself.
I know, but sometimes men would be like a bit like resentful, because
Of
they're
course.
used to.
But the thing is this is where it comes down to like, I don't have expectations
Yes.
for you to like do anything.
That is
Yes.
key in relationships in general.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
that's
don't
a
expect
all
you
life.
to, I don't
Yeah.
expect you to cook my meals. I don't expect anything. When you do these things, I obviously have a lot of gratitude and appreciation towards them. But like if you don't, it's not disappointing or like like let down of expectations for me. Like I don't ever expect anything. I appreciate all that is done, but I would never.
I think that's like a huge strength in him in general, though, because like that's not just in our marriage, that's like in his entire life. And you can see like his grace when he doesn't win, or his like, I don't think you have like really any sort of like entitlement or expectation for anything in life. I think it's like a very innate thing in you. Whereas even me, sometimes I'll get like this like weird, like, like jealousy or like, oh, I wish I had that, or why didn't you do that, or like weird feelings. And I'm able to be like, check myself. But I don't even think you get those feelings.
Not really. No, I'm not.
Like I've never even felt an ounce of like resentment or anything from you in the last 10 years, ever.
No.
And I never even thought about it until now. That's crazy.
I think though too, in relationships, it seems like these kind of situations just organically work themselves out. Like I'm trying to think as you just asked that, like if there's two people, not necessarily at the same sport, that are literally at the top at the same time, and I'm having a hard time thinking of it.
Yeah.
Even with like Tom Brady and Giselle, like as she was kind of coming down, he
was
continued to rise,
Yeah.
and I think then now she supports him and takes care of more of the business stuff. But like, I can't really think of a situation, because I think honestly, this is the responsible part of being in a relationship is as you see that happening, like one has to support the other. If there's so much competitiveness within the relationship where both, like even with Jordan, like if Jordan had some cookie business or whatever, but that wasn't allowing me to do my job to the best of my ability, and she was trying to compete with time, then either our relationship would be sacrificed or the boys' time would be sacrificed. So somebody has to like sweep in to support.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
Because every relationship where they've both been at the top together, what usually happens? They fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you're probably, even if there's no like animosity, there's probably a lot of space being created between
Right.
the two people, right? Because if that much time is being dedicated to different things by each person, I mean,
Lost within each other.
yeah, for sure.
I wonder if that's like a personality trait that people have as a supporter or not, or kind of, and then that's just what links up and you end up being together. Like before you even become someone like famous or successful.
Yeah, but I think within one relationship, it can change.
True.
You know what I mean? Like you can switch.
Yeah.
I think
because there might be a time where, my bodybuilding career, like, like you said with Giselle's, her career was on, it's like, could be, 10 years from now, my bodybuilding career is coming down, but, you're doing apparel line that's on the up and up, and my priorities change to supporting you in that. I mean, the things could obviously change, and I'd, be more than happy to have that change of energy, but it's this is just where we're at in our life at the moment, Right.
Yeah, I think of even if Courtney did the Olympia again, she would still be supporting me while competing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And she's even said, she's like, when I competed, like I wanted to do more, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm dead. She's like, I'd like want to be distracting myself, helping you and shit. I was like, oh fuck, I would not be cooking for you. I want to be guilty.
I think this is also,
I feel like women get higher energy.
I was gonna say, I think this is a female trait in a lot of ways too. You know, one from the energy standpoint, like you said, but two also just from like a caretaker giver standpoint.
Yeah, it's innate.
It's an innate thing that I think women just have more than men.
I don't think we have it more. I think when we give energy, we receive it. So like we're almost like we're recharging while we're taking care of people that we love.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
But that's what I'm saying. That's a female trait that men would not necessarily have.
So
It's like an evolutionary thing of
for
being
sure.
a mother.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Like it doesn't exhaust me to like do things for him. It like makes me more energized. You know what I mean? Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why it works too. Like, because like I said before, I also don't have any expectation of it. So it's like, you're doing it because you want to do it and because you like to help. And then I appreciate it, but I don't expect it. So it's like, it's a good balance, you know? It's like once I start expecting that, then, you know, you're gone, then it causes, you know, animosity. That's where it becomes issues. But, you know, right now it's just, I appreciate the help and that's where we're at. Right?
Pro tip to relationships: if you don't expect it, you're more likely to get it.
Yeah.
As soon as you expect something, especially Melissa, if you expect something in Melissa, she'll be like, fuck you. I'm not doing
so
it.
Yeah. I'm so like rebellious when someone expects something of me.
You want to do these things, but you don't want them to expect it, you know? Like want them to want it, you know?
I'm such a bitch.
No, but I mean, it's true. It's like you want to, you know, be that caretaker and be, you know, the helping hand, you know, for sure. Like that's a very innate thing in you, big time.
There's also the direct and indirect ways of support. Like Iain knows his successful career takes care of the family, puts food on the table, and everything that's kind of indirect, that it's not directly to you, but it's his success comes on to you, whereas you are straight up directly helping him get that success. And it's like a cycle that refeeds itself.
Yeah.
Which I feel like every relationship does need. But not always men and women in the same role, but usually.
Usually.
Don't get in trouble for this sexist podcast.
I feel like it's just like recognizing a pattern, you know, which is fine.
All right, I'll bust my questions out. Individual questions you can both answer as you want. I want to know what, at your greatest victory, what emotions do you feel? Like pride in yourself, relief, like
Greatest victory.
you finally did it, or like
in what kind of victory? Are we talking competitive victory? Are we talking about
like your biggest struggle, prep or whatever that you led into like getting, like you felt like you just suffered from it and you were like, fuck, I can't believe you came out on top on the other end.
relief?
Relief.
Yeah, I would say relief. Yeah.
Relief.
Mine's the opposite.
What?
Pride.
Right?
I feel like, who was I talking to the other day? Someone asked me like why I trained. And they were like, I go to the gym because it like makes me like, I de-stress and whatever. And like, I said, no, I go because it makes me like walk around with my head held high. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a badass. I'm like feeding the positive. And I feel like that's like in my personality. Like I do things in terms of like positive reinforcement, where I think a lot of people will do things from like negative to like fix the negative or to like heal or something. And I just feel like I am driven by the feeling of like I gave it my all, and I just have like a lot of self-love for myself, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like you probably are just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I did it.
I feel like a lot of people expect to feel how you feel, but most don't. Like with the amount of expectation and pressure you put on yourself to succeed, it's almost like it's like such a high thing. You're like, fuck, if this doesn't happen, it's like, I can't believe I just did all this. And then you win and you're like, oh my God, that relief.
It's relief for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had that feeling after like a successful thing. I've had like pain and disappointment when I don't like get what I was working for, but the positive is always just like very high, happy, emotional state, you know?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's because from a coaching perspective, I'm not actually quote unquote achieving the victory, you know. So I think that's why for me it is like a relief, because I know that somebody else is depending on me so much.
Yes.
You know, so like so much of my relationship with people, I feel like for me is like, as sad as it is to say, it's like performance induced. You know, so like the second that, because I can't necessarily achieve the goal on my own. So in that instance, like I feel, I'm proud, but at the same time, it is like a lot of like, okay, like,
Yeah.
they got it done,
Yeah.
or like, they're not going to be upset, or like, that's like a lot of like,
You also relinquish a lot of control.
I was
going
going to say you don't have control over everything though. So that might be relieving that you're like, okay.
yeah.
Because even if you did your part, you can't.
I don't necessarily ultimately have the decision.
Yeah.
Control the outcome.
Yeah.
I didn't think of how stressful that'd be as a coach.
Well, I was thinking when you asked like how I feel when he succeeds or when he doesn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is relief when he succeeds.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I almost know the devastation that will happen if it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to see him disappointed.
Well, that's what he's saying too.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a lot of times it's like the impact if you lose is greater than the impact if you win.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And then it's just like, you just don't want that person to, or yourself to experience that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's like, just,
Yeah. The greatest impact of winning is almost a lack of impact that you would have gotten from losing.
right.
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think for me it's more relief, but I don't really know what that stems from. Like it's like obviously in some of my career things I have a lot of joy and pride in like the accomplishments I've had, but the most like resounding feeling I have like getting off stage for most is relief.
To me, I feel like this is getting really specific, but I think Iain's at a point now that like, and I was just saying that you don't have expectations, but he feels the expectation to win every show that he does. So when he wins, like when he won Texas or when he won Tampa, he's like, oh, thank God.
I did what
Whereas like the Arnold, when you came second, that was not relief. That was pure joy. That was
joy,
pure joy.
Yeah.
Same with the Olympia, because there's no expectation. Like no one thinks he's going to win the Olympia.
Right.
No offense.
No.
But so when anything happens and he can just like relish in what the actual success is instead of like being like, oh, thank God I didn't like disappoint people.
Yeah.
I
think that's what it is. Yeah.
And then too, we talked about it last episode, but from the social media impact, we know whether you actually read it or not, if you lose, what's being said.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Mentally, that's hard.
Yeah. And I'm obviously one that has dwelled on those kind of things. So, when something goes like more in your way, it is even adding to that relief too, that you're like, okay, like we're in the clear here.
Yeah.
But even
when you win,
even in my case,
people shit on you too.
Yeah, it goes both ways. So
depends for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm honestly very thankful that you won New York and you had that huge controversy, because I think it's made you so much more like
I learned a lot from it.
Like tough to that bullshit on social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You had to get fed the worst of it and
When
come
you
out
won.
fine on the other end.
But like you won and then it happened. So now it's like, I don't know.
You can't please people.
Yeah. You're just a lot like less affected by it now.
Yeah.
Obviously it still affects you, but not to like the amount it did before.
I think I've just been able to now focus more on like my own goals in bodybuilding and not like what my perceived like
What they should be.
What it should be, you know, like yeah, obviously there's certain things like, when I show up at a lower tier show like at Tampa or Texas, I do expect to win those, but it's a different kind of expectation, right?
Yeah, but that is also what you expect of yourself at this point in your career.
Yeah,
you have the ability to win these shows, so you should be expecting to win every one you go into.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go into the Arnold and look at the lineup and be like, I can beat all these people, I better fucking win. You still are like, I know who I am and I know what I can do, and this is a big show, and like
I control the variables I can.
yeah, exactly.
I'm just not so focused on
You're not comparing yourself to lineups anymore. You used to do
what
that.
other people think or want or expect of me in those situations.
Yeah.
There's expectations for myself, and then there's the external pressures. And I think I've let those go a bit more in terms of just like focusing on the pressure of myself and not that of the outside,
Yeah.
I feel like for me, 2020 was the only year when I didn't feel like that relief. I just felt like pride.
Yeah.
Because it was like 2019, it was like straight up relief.
Yeah.
I'm shocked I still won that Olympia. And the next year was just such a good prep. And I was still like proving myself. People still doubted if I would beat Breon again or Terrence
you
would
had
come
a
up.
huge improvement.
And I knew I looked so much better. I was like, fuck it, let's go destroy this. And then
2020 was the dopest one.
that was the
ever.
best.
That
Yeah.
feeling when you won was like in.
And then this year, the pressure sunk in of like people talking about a legacy trying to be built and this stuff and all.
Yeah, especially because
like
the bar had been raised, right? Like you had exceeded the expectations in 2020
yeah,
for yourself and for the outside, just like we were talking about. I think you won in 2019 and it was like a little controversial, like you said. And then when you came back in 2020, like it was not controversial at all. And you really raised the bar for yourself so that in 2021, it was like, okay, I got to be better than that now.
Yeah.
Like the expectations are higher. The expectations to blow everyone out of the water. The expectations are, changed now, right?
and the expectations of a comparisons like almost went away from the other 4 guys in the top 5 and went on to like
You.
legends
versus you,
the
yeah,
greats of me.
Yeah, but
well,
it's-
what like how many is he gonna get? What is he gonna become an icon in
I was just gonna
50 years
say,
from now?
is
Will
it-
like he be the person? Like it's like this expectation is like bigger than just this show. It's like
Do you
the
feel
sports.
like that? Like, is it hard for you to even say like present on like 2022 because people are talking about like 10-time Mr. Olympia and it's hasn't even happened yet
I struggled with that more in last year.
last year? But like
I'm
how
easing out of it now,
you're
but
learning to like not this.
I think it was kind of there for a bit and it didn't change anything and it just stressed me out and I was like, okay, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
and I also don't know if I'm even going to want to or be able to compete long enough to like attain that. So like, why worry beyond the next goal?
Yeah.
I feel like you almost like relinquish your like freedom of choice when you start thinking that far ahead.
Yeah.
I'm all about long-term goals, but I think if you start talking about like 10-time or like 10-year, like whatever,
No, you lose sight for sure.
you're like,
Of the
are
short.
you really like choosing your like vision every year? Or are you just like,
Yeah. I also have a subtle thing inside me, whether it's healthy or not, it probably helps me towards my goal, but I almost feel like it's my last year
yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
And I better fucking like be my best this year and like do this.
Yeah.
Because who knows? Maybe it is my last year. And everyone's like that, but I think personally it's even more so
Yeah, because
potentially
Body.
because of my health and everything. So like that idea makes me give like 110%. And then if I think beyond that, then it's like, oh, well, I'll have another chance. Like,
Yeah.
no, there's no other chances. How do you want to leave this? And that creates a
Gives you a
lot of
sense of urgency,
expectation.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
But in the flip end of that, I don't think that if you had this goal of, let's say, 8 victories, you wouldn't enjoy the individual wins. nearly.
Exactly.
Because you haven't accomplished the total yet.
Right. And you would
It's
just
like,
be
okay,
more
well, that's 5. Still got
overwhelmed.
3 more to go. you know? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you there for sure. I mean, I think, living in the urgency of like the moment and like, each win as an individual win is going to obviously have a lot greater impact than like them as a unit,
That's what I tell everyone too who I meet who they're like 18. And they're like, I'm going to be on stage beside you one day. I was like, when I was 18, I didn't even know what bodybuilding was.
I know.
When I did my first show, I had never even watched an Olympia. I was literally like, I want to win fucking Sudbury.
Yeah.
That was it.
A girl came up to me at the gym and she was like, I have a question. I'm like trying to get into college for D1 volleyball and I really want to bodybuild. And my parents say you can't make money off bodybuilding. Can you make money? And I was like, well, what are you doing right now? Are you competing or are you trying to get into college for D1 volleyball? She was like, I'm trying to get into college. I'm like, well, you should probably be focusing on that because that takes a serious amount of commitment.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're training every day. Like, you're 17 years old. Like, why are you even asking me if you can make money bodybuilding? Who cares?
Yeah.
And she was just kind of like, oh, I'm like, but her parents also probably asked her, like, oh, you want to do this? You can't make money doing that. Instead of just being like, be where you are now.
Yeah.
You're a competitive athlete trying to get a scholarship to go to college. That's making money right now. Just be here. And I think
Hopefully she's happy doing that.
I asked her and she seemed to be, but like, I think like obviously mindfulness and being in the moment is like the goal of your entire life.
I live life a quarter mile at a time.
Is that a real quote?
Fast and Furious.
Oh,
Best quote there ever was.
I didn't know. I was just gonna say, I'm sorry I let you down.
Mike Saunders is going to be mad.
Yeah. Sorry, Saunders.
Back to Iain and expectations. We just found out where they're at. Come on, don't
Fast
say
and Furious point quotes. Yeah.
He wants me to know every quote from every movie ever, actually. And I'm the worst.
That one's like holds close in his heart, though.
Yeah.
That's like number one.
Serious one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something I made a post about this, I think 2 days ago, but I think in like regular athletic sports, ball sports, whatever you want to call them, there's like so much more realistic expectations of the track that you should be on, you know? And then that just gets so convoluted within physique sports for
So
some
much.
reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's people like you that just go from like,
My bad.
basic. Well, no, but
dare
like
you.
seriously, like,
Yeah.
going from a high schooler to winning and taking over in 5 years. I think if so many more people had a realistic list of expectations of what you can accomplish in a set amount of time.
I also think that, in the traditional sports, like you're saying, there's a lot more pride in like the come up, like in the process of like, if you're a college ball player, like, playing those college ball years, like, all these things, these formative years are like important, where I think these people don't treat their like amateur competing days or their like days, in their, first couple of years as a pro bodybuilder, like, building up to that.
Yeah.
They care about that. They just care about the end result.
Yeah,
of like,
but think about like when you're watching like these shows where you see the coaching and you see like there's like usually like males that have gone through this before that are like slowing young people down and being like,
Yeah.
I don't think there is that kind of structure in what we do.
There's not. No. I mean, we've even seen it like in the US and I think, but with you guys too, like it used to be a huge deal to win junior nationals. That was like the next stepping stone. And then once you win junior nationals or get top 5, that was like, okay, now I can go to a national stage.
show, yeah.
People don't even go. They don't even go to junior nationals anymore.
No.
Did you
it's
used
just
to
like-
have to?
I don't know to start. But like in 2011,
It was like rites of
12.
passage,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. It was different. Like people wanted to, there was, and even when I started competing, it was like, you'd win a provincial championship, you'd win a local.
Well, we had to though. You couldn't get to nationals
but
any
even
other
if
way.
you didn't, like it was still, even if you could go straight to the top, let's say, there was still pride in the process, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I think that's the thing with ball players. It's like, winning an NCAA title or, winning that or, winning a Heisman, like these things like are important to people at the other levels, where in bodybuilding, it's just like, I just want to win the Olympia. It's like it skips all these steps, which is interesting. Why? I don't quite know exactly why.
I
Social media
remember
driven,
wanting
but-
to like win Ontario's. Like I remember being like, I'm going to win the title for my
But see,
province.
this is the thing though. Like, and this is what he's saying. It's like, you'll see now is people's goals will be like, like Chris said, I'm going to be on the Olympia stage with you in 10 years, or they just say, like what chasing my going to win my pro card or whatever. It's like, but they don't think of all the steps.
But between now and then, there's
between now and
nothing.
then.
It's
What's
just empty
between now and you
space.
winning your pro card. What about the work that's there? What about the, the accolades that need to be, that could be conformed, one in between now and then. It's like that whole process is just like not really cared about as much as just the end result, which is different,
Maybe it is socials,
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's because like the only people that you're really like following and look up to are already at the top. I don't know.
Like it's like that in sports too.
Like that in sports too, though.
But it's something else that's interesting, especially within bodybuilding, is that when print was so big, they were doing such a better job of using video to document guys' journeys. And now that print is out, it's almost like we have, unless you're individually driving it, we have less video documentation. Like muscular development used to travel all over and get these videos of all these amateur guys.
Oh yeah.
Even at the amateur level, like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, what was that Universal that did it in Canada?
Well, you're talking about Universal Road Trip.
Oh, that's different.
But yeah.
But
no, it's
stuff
like,
like that,
document,
and then at national shows they would do all these in-room interviews and like bring excitement.
Yeah.
All that's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I brought that up to them.
I know.
Keep pushing it on them.
But what?
Wanting to have like a road to the Olympia series of like the top 5, top 10. Like if someone wanted to pay for the videographer to do it themselves, find an 18-year-old, pay him nothing, but travel around the country for free pretty much. Go find everyone at a few points in their prep, interview them the same questions, get their diet, their training, and all of a sudden now we have an insight to their life.
Yeah, but even if you were to do that at like an amateur level, because I feel like Canada tried to do that. They had like a Road to Pro series.
Really?
Yeah, they did. But like,
What?
see, nobody even knows. I think Muscle Insider
When?
2 years ago before COVID. But I swear to God, it was too sporadic because like you can't follow everybody. You know what I mean? You need to know basically who the top 5 at nationals are going to be.
Yeah.
But you go off previous years and who was at the top tier last year that's coming back this year, and like, you use things as indicators, right? Like,
Yeah.
Are you saying that to bring the interest to earlier levels?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you're gonna watch a documentary on a high school sports team. You're gonna watch The Last Dance on Michael Jordan.
but you
We
would.
did.
Yeah, I mean, people watch things. on high
Hoover,
school.
MTV, Hoover, whatever that was called. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
You need to watch it.
Hoover.
Yeah.
Is it a show
What's it
or a
called?
doc?
Scott, look it up.
Sorry. We watched
Jamie.
something.
Look up, it was on MTV, football series about the Hoover High School football team. Wednesday night at 9 o'clock.
And to me,
2 days.
to
We
me,
used to rush home from church and watch it.
Nationals isn't like high school. To me, Nationals would be like college. You're going to get your pro card.
Yeah.
And you would watch a documentary on college football.
I guess, yeah.
For sure.
It's also, sports are also just cooler than bodybuilding. Like, let's be honest.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
The culture behind it, and like,
bodybuilding could be that way.
Could get
It's just-
there.
It could get there, but like Matt's saying, it's just there's the focus of, the process is so lost that like it's different, right? Like there's so many different things like documenting the rise of an athlete, like it's so much more interesting to watch. Where in bodybuilding, it's just like just the top end, right?
Yeah.
Just focusing once you're at the top, that's it.
yeah. I mean, and arguably that's why I've become popular on social media. People like, if some people have followed me since that year in 2018 when I got really sick and I was going to quit bodybuilding, then now they see me winning my 3rd Olympia and they're like, they've seen the whole journey. So they're like connected with me.
Yeah.
But
That connection
because I've
is a long
chosen
way.
to
Well, yeah,
share
you
that
share.
myself.
You share like your mental barriers. You share like your mindset. You share your training. You share your eating. Like this is all things that people care about. But
I feel like you could put together a production team and just do that and it would be fucking sick.
sure
Like
we could.
someone who can edit like Scott or Calvin and just like go, we'll have connections with all the top pros and shit, just top 10 Olympia, just like have a YouTube video series or a channel that's just all them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Netflix, yeah.
probably good.
That'd be a good series. Road to the Olympia, like 10 guys going in, a couple weeks out. That'd be cool.
You do it all year.
Yeah.
You get to see the culture behind
Those videos used
how
to
they
be
like
great.
to train.
Like Battle for the Olympia videos
Yeah.
and stuff. But I mean, like that could even extend to lower ranks than
Yeah.
pros too, Like watching guys like Battle for Nationals or something, like watching those guys document into that would still be just as cool, So there's so many different ways to look at it. Like
I remember those videos of like Flex Wheeler and
that's the Battle for the Olympia.
Jay Cutler and some with his headband and all that shit. Those were sick.
All those guys and follow them into the Olympia was awesome. Yeah.
there was like one. I don't even know who did it. Of Nicole Wilkins when she was trying to get like her 5th title or something, and it's like 12 minutes long. There's only one per women, obviously. I watched it over and over again. I think I watched it every day when prep because that's all I had. But it like fired you up because you like saw her and she's like very well spoken. She shares a lot, you know what I mean? And I mean she lost, but like it still fired you up. And that was the only thing that was available. I watched it every single day.
All right. We have our next business idea. Scott put together the production team.
Get the Netflix
On
pitch.
top of everything else
Get
you
the
have to
Netflix
do,
pitch ready.
okay?
All right. Next question. In yourselves, what do you think has improved the most over your competing years in between the two options of like intelligence and knowledge in the sport? Like how well you know your body, how to train, all this shit, or like just control, like mental mastery, like self-mastery of like your mental game and like stress and all that and pressure and all that. And what do you think is more important in terms of like, so there's the option of like knowledge and intelligence and then like mental mastery and what's going to make you driven to be like elite.
And which one we think we've improved in more.
Yeah.
I've definitely improved more in the physical side of things, like not the mental mastery,
You think?
I thought you were gonna
that's
say
funny.
mental.
I would say that too.
What?
Mental.
You think I've improved more in the mental?
Yeah.
I don't know, because like I still,
He's like,
He still feels like he has so far to go mentally. I feel like he wouldn't say that, but I think back like
look, I know I've learned
3
a
years
lot
ago?
and grown a lot in both aspects, but I still feel like I have more to go from the mental than I do the physical.
yeah, but that doesn't mean you haven't come further.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
but you've always, so well, the way I perceive that question, you're somebody else that I think from a X's and O's standpoint, you understand bodybuilding very, very well. 4 years ago, you understood bodybuilding very, very well.
that's true. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if there was no such thing as a coach and it come down to you getting in shape, you 100% could get yourself in shape, you know? So I would say just even from an outside perspective now, like your mental approach has improved a ton.
Yeah. yeah, looking at it from that perspective, I definitely.
Yeah, not what are you the best at? What have you improved the most?
It's hard to judge because the expectation, which is we were just saying that I didn't have expectations. We're contradicting all over the place here, but the expectations for myself and
expectations and entitlement are also two different things.
So sorry, the expectations on myself as well as the arena that I'm competing in has changed a lot over the last few years. You know, so like it's a different arena, like mentally as well. You know, when you're like showing up at a show and it's like, you know, you just want to get in the top 3 or top 4, like, you know, maybe you'll win enough to get there on points or, you know, those kind of things. It's different from a mental standpoint than, you know, like we were just talking about where you expect to win shows. You expect to be this, you expect to, you know, you want to, you know, you think you should be top 5 at the Olympia.
So do you think the arena that you're in now, you need more mental tenacity?
Yeah.
And you're there now. So you must have it.
I think my mental tenacity is improving, but not quite at the rate that my career improved in the last 2 years. You know, so I think I'm still behind in terms of the amount of pressures that I'm putting on myself and expectations versus where I am from a mentally controlling standpoint.
I would argue that you even admitting and saying that is showing how far you've come.
Yeah.
I think COVID, and we haven't even talked about this, I think COVID helped you because you had this monkey on your back of winning the Toronto Pro, which still hasn't happened.
No.
But yet your career has gone so much further than that now.
Yeah.
Because like that wasn't able to be the goal, but you moved beyond that being the goal. You know, now you've accomplished things that are much bigger than winning Toronto Pro.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. You?
I feel like Iain forgets that like 3 years ago, it was hard for him to even admit that he could mentally be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you thought that pretending that you could do everything and that you would muscle through was the answer. And now you're sitting here saying like, well, I know I have to be mentally tougher to like compete in this arena.
but
like that's like the biggest change in a human ever.
But I'm not disagreeing that I haven't improved from a mental standpoint in a lot of ways. I think I've made leaps and bounds, but I still think there's a lot of way to go. So I think that's
but that is a strength. There's always going to be somewhere to go, and you even acknowledging that there is.
I guess that was the question.
Makes
Which
it
one you've
possible for you to get there.
I guess if it's what's
you
improved.
cannot get there
I was
if
looking
you think
more
you're
denial.
already there.
Yeah.
I was looking at more of the standpoint of like what's better, you know, where I think I'm still better from the other perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because there's still a long way to go. And as obviously as my career is ever changing, you know, like the atmosphere is always changing of like, you know, where you're at in your state of your career, right? So it's always different mental challenges where the physical ones are kind of like more static, you know, like or changing but different, you know. Yeah. You got to answer the question too.
I don't think I've come very far in terms of my mental state.
You don't?
No, I don't.
In terms of life or in terms of competing?
I think I've like dug up things that I was like not pretending that weren't there, that I like didn't know were there when I first started competing. But I don't think I've like learned what I need to like master them and to be able to like get out of my own way, if that makes sense.
What is your own way? What is getting out of your own way?
I mean, not doubting myself. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of complicated things that go on inside of me that like I don't even know how to like speak about yet, in terms of like self-doubt, self-sabotage, self-worth, all these things. And I don't think I really knew that I even struggled with this until probably like 2-3 years ago.
Now, is this within the realm of physique or beyond it?
I think it's beyond it.
Yeah.
I think it manifests very obviously in terms of like
When you're isolating it in a physique sport.
yeah. Like when you're thinking about like how you look or how you feel you look or whatever.
I feel like competing is almost a good tool to like spotlight your problems. It brings out everything in you, and you're like, wow, like if it's a problem in this, it's a problem in
It
your
can bring
life.
out a lot of insecurities for sure.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think like what has come up for me in terms of like me dealing with that has made me like a better wife and a better friend and a better sister and a better daughter. But I don't think I've become like a better me yet, if that makes sense. And I think that showed last year when I like tried to get on stage and I didn't. Obviously, like things happened last year that did affect me mentally, but I also think that there's a version of me that those things could have happened to, and I still could have stayed stronger and got on stage. And that's who I need to find. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where I am now. And I mean, physically in terms of training, I think I'm night and day from when I first started. But like, I also don't think it really has anything to do with anything.
What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Like, I feel like I have good enough genetics that like I could train like an asshole and I would still be fine. Like, I know that's bad to say, but like for what I compete in and how I have to look, I think it's more of like a mental mastery that I need to get to.
Yeah. You won your pro card not even knowing how to flex
the
your
amount of
lats. or
tools-
train
I
your
didn't
back.
know how to.
The amount of tools
Yeah.
you need for physique development are a lot less than what you need
Yes.
for mental mastery. For
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
And do I think I've learned a lot in terms of training and dieting being with him for the last 5 years? Absolutely. But do I think that's like the key to my success? No, absolutely not.
I mean, I think we didn't answer what was more important, but I think based off what people, what you lingered on longer, it's clear to see that mental game, I feel like, is more important to becoming like
Question,
elite.
what's more important?
Yeah.
I thought it was where you improved.
No, I was. And then which have you improved more and what do you think is more important to lead to like elite success?
Well, I think mental is going to be more important all the way around.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest defining things when you look at like champions is obviously their state of mind versus everything else, I mean, I think there's lots of people with lots of tools, physically and all these things, but the people that have the mental tools to coincide with that are obviously a lot more limited. I think that's what creates good champions is obviously that differentiation, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I just don't think you can have one.
Like
without
let's
the
be
other.
serious. In every avenue of business, athletics, everything, we all know someone that's got like all the gifts that does nothing with it, and that is because of their mental state. That's not because of the lack of tools. And I think you can do one without the other, but you can't do one without the other. You know what I mean? Like you can have, bad, like physical, whatever, and you can still go a long way. But if your mindset is not there, like all the physical tools
Always
in the
going to
world,
hold you back.
oh, yeah, it'll always hold you back.
Yeah.
I feel like it sounds obvious for us to say being in our positions, but like we do Q&As, I'm sure you too. Like, what's the secret to Pierre? What's the secret? How do how to get a bigger chest? Like all the people are worried about when they're not succeeding is like, what am I doing wrong? My logbook says this, or I need to, everything needs to be detailed, scientific, all this shit. When like sometimes you got to throw it out the door and just fucking hammer down.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it. I think a lot of times, and this is obviously a very blanket statement. I think a lot of times people use the focus of minutia to escape the reality of their situation. A lot of other ways, like whether it's an inability of other gifts, or because they mentally aren't maybe doing something else that they know they should be doing.
I mean, it's a lot less painful to like focus on meal timing versus looking in the mirror and being like, you're a lazy piece of shit.
Exactly.
I didn't do care.
To focus on minutia like that is a lot easier than
Or
to focus on
like
the big things.
you self-sabotage yourself because of this and that. Like that's hard to like get to.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to be like, oh, I missed my meal was 30 minutes late, so this fucked me up today. Like, no, it didn't.
Yeah. So I think those things matter more for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I wrap. You have anything else you want to add? How long have we been going, Scott?
What's your biggest non-competing goal for this year?
Non-competing goal.
Yeah.
To feel situated, like we kind of been in like a weird like limbo of like living different places, and which is nice to have some change at certain times, but then like there gets to a point where you're like you just want to feel grounded, and I think especially like going into like a big competitive year, and also like where we just are at in our lives, you want to feel like grounded and situated, and you want to feel like at home,
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't feel at home here or anywhere, but it's like you're still kind of in that limbo state. I think that's a big thing for me. It's just like making sure I have a place where I like feel comfortable and grounded, and where I can really like get to work and not feel like there's looming things that I have to like figure out about my situation. So I think that's a big thing for sure. It's just feeling grounded.
Mine's the same.
Yeah.
I'm making him go look at an open house on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Where, here?
Yeah.
I approve this decision.
No, I just want to feel like we're like set up for the future. You know what I mean? And like we're still working towards the future right now, obviously, but there's a way to sit down and like surround yourself with an environment that is going to help you produce what you want. And right now, like we're so lucky. We're in a beautiful condo and all these things, but like we're not in our like home.
Furthering yourself.
Yeah, we still have a home in Canada. Like it's
there's
like,
still like a lot of moving parts that need to be, figured out. And I think that's really what I want the most. Is just to like feel like, I'm in a place where I can like put that behind me and just focus on what is to be done and accomplished this year and focus on us and like these things and
building the future.
the future and not like worrying about like figuring out all the small things like that, Not small things, but things like that are just like what's the word for it?
It just feels like loose ends that we need to tie up. And that it's very, very hard to feel like you're working at full productivity.
To give context to it, like when we came down to Florida, like we came here with the intent.
We came with a suitcase.
I came to compete in the Tampa Pro and the Texas Pro that were back-to-back weeks, and that was it. I was going to go home to Canada after that, you know? So like I packed a bag to do 2 shows, like that was literally what we came down here to do, first week of August and second week of August, and then we ended up just staying here.
You guys haven't been back since.
No.
I mean, I haven't either, but that's crazy. I planned
you've
on
been
it.
back in Canada at least once.
But I planned to come here.
Yeah. So it's, we just kind of like ended up here, so which was fun and had a lot of benefits, I think, at the time of like, when you're prepping for the Arnold, prepping for Olympia, this is obviously a very conducive environment to be in, like Chris was here, the weather's better, like, it's a great environment, the Revive gym, like, there was obviously a lot of benefits, but now that like the dust is settled, it's like, okay, but now I'm just like, where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I in life? Like what's going on with my home back home? Like, what am I doing in the next 5 years? Like, I don't like to like look too far down the road, but when you're talking about like living situations, these things, those kinds, those things you think about, right? So, that's the biggest thing I just want to figure out is like, get a place, feel situated, have that all, where we're going to be for the next little while.
Couple years at least.
Yeah, next couple, years figured out, and then, that gives you a lot more peace of mind to, work forward from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's exciting though.
Yeah. No, it's not exciting. I mean, it's fun to, look at those kind of things.
Well, yeah.
Change is fun.
It's also a blessing when you actually have the opportunity to choose things. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Like when we're sitting here being like, well, what do you want to do next? Like that's a huge gift. That not a
Where do you want to live?
have.
We can go anywhere.
Yeah, that's like a huge gift. And I think the last what has it been, like 6 months basically, we've been like, oh, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What are we going to do? But like now we're like, okay, enough.
It's figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. It was fun when, we are living.
We're also traveling every 2 weeks
when you're
for a show.
competing and like, it's like, you just want to, like even when we went down to the Arnold, like we went down to Columbus and I'm like, I like it here. I like the weather. I'm going to stay for another 2 weeks, And I just stayed in Columbus after the Arnold for a week or two. It's like, you had the flexibility to do those things and they're fun in the moment. But then like, when it's, especially at the start of a season, like I want to feel grounded, I want to feel situated. I want to feel, like I have my place and like my,
Yeah, no, it's important.
Yeah.
for sure.
It's very important.
Yeah.
If something comes and rocks you, everything else is stable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Good.
Any other questions?
All right. No, we're good. Well, thank you guys for joining us for
Thanks for having
podcast
us.
number 7. Peace out, everybody.
We're going to eat now.
We're all hungry.
I just want to take a nap.